What's up, guys? Tegan here to take you on another LRGB tutorial. The first one that I put out was pretty much a full L, LRGB post-processing video from LRGB combination to processing the luminance layer. If you watch that, then that will cover what's in this video. But if you didn't want to watch an hour-long video on LRGB combination, all I'm going to be discussing here is how to combine your RGB channels um, and your luminance layer. But what we're really going to do is we're going to after we combine our RGB data, we're going to color correct it, blur it, apply a luminance layer over the RGB data so we get all of our detail back. I do discuss this in my other video. It exact same way, just different data. Um, so yeah, we can go ahead and begin. First of all, this is a M51 with my old ATIC 414 and 8RC, which I just still have. But red, green, and blue. I stretched the data already, and I aligned it, star aligned it. I always prefer stretching my data before combining it. That's just me personally. I've heard people do differently. You can completely decide. I'm choosing this one just because I've had the best luck with it. And so and so when these three images are linear, I go ahead, I do process, intensity transformations, and then histogram transformations, and then I stretch them all pretty evenly. You can see the blue here is a little bit darker. I might want to lighten that up a little bit. I'll go ahead and do this. But this data actually, if you look, is really noisy, and I have these hot pixels because I didn't apply dark frames, I don't think. Yeah, so apply dark frames. Make sure this is a blue channel because that's the one we're highlighting down the darks, and noise does not matter because we're going to convolute it. We're going to blur the RGB image because it doesn't retain any detail. It's only for color. So that looks about good. And now, since these are all star aligned, stack them on top of each other. They'll just kind of pop right into place there. We're just going to go to process and LRGB combination. Now you can, if you do have gradients like so down here, or if you have light pollution gradients, maybe the right side of your image is brighter than the left side of your images, you can go to background modelization and do either of these, and whichever works best for you. Or you can do it after RGB combination, after we combine the channels. So I'm going to try that. I haven't actually compared the two before. I guess I just kind of go with whatever I'm feeling. So we're going to get the RGB data stacked here. Let's go with, now these are registered. Make sure you do click the right ones. So red stack and 51 green stack. And the reference image I used was my blue stack. So there is no registered blue stack. I do like to play with the saturation, increase that. Don't worry about the chrominance noise reduction because it does not matter. And there's our color image. And it actually doesn't look too bad. There's some green hues. You definitely see these terrible, terrible hot pixels. Take darks, people. Definitely worth it. Hopefully that disappears when we do convolution. So fit to view. First of all, you notice this green hue. We're gonna go and do noise reduction and SCNR. And what this does, make sure the color to remove is green. Green is not a natural image in nebula or galaxies. So go ahead and apply it. And that looks really nice. See, you get some nice blues. You definitely get the brown tones here in the middle. And you still get these awesome red, orange, blue things now since the green was taken away. So that still looks terrible, but it's not green at least. Okay, so the background is the next thing that we're going to fix, and you can clearly see that there are some gradients here. So like I said, I'm going to go dynamic background extraction. So you just click on the image, and I like to select 3 points in each quadrant away from the nebulosity. Make sure you stay away from these, if you're shooting M51, stay away from these tidal trails here. Make sure you do select this, I guess that's a dust mote. Make sure you put some markers on that to make sure that averages out. And I think that's okay. For tolerance, I usually change that to 2.0, and down here for correction, you want to do subtraction, and I discard these two because it's just two window box that pops up and shows you which gradients were actually removed. And I go ahead and apply it. This actually turned like yellow down here. We can exit this out and see the difference by just hitting Control Z. It actually looks better without the background extraction. You can experiment. I'm going to go ahead for time's sake. Not going to worry about it. It looks okay. But what I am going to do is make a mask. I'm going to make a mask of, well, what I'm going to do is mask this galaxy and just darken the background here. And then we can use that same mask for color saturation and color correction. So I like to use a range mask. Reset. Right, here's our live preview. I'm going to bring down the lower limit first. And so when we're making this mask, you want these areas to not be masked, but you do want them to blend well in the background. Like over here, completely hard edges. That's going to look completely unnatural. So I like to take the smoothness slider down. Maybe not too much. And the fuzziness slider gives you more HDR look, so you can control the wispies. And by using this fuzziness layer, what you do is prevent the core from being adjusted too much. You get it's kind of blacked out here, so it's semi-masked. Any histogram transformation or brightness increase on that is probably going to oversaturate it. So just it's kind of finding a balance here. You want it to blend, but not too much. I'd say that's about right. There are some stars. That means we will brighten the stars a tad. Um, we'll see. I think this looks okay to me. Maybe a little darker. Okay. Keep it as is. All right, and what I'm going to do is apply the mask. And so this entire background is masked and the galaxy is not masked. We do not want that. We want to darken the background. So you want to invert mask. Now you see all these bright red spots will not be touched with our histogram transformation, but this background area back here definitely will be darkened, especially that little guy. So sayonara. All right, here we go. Mask, show mask. I'm going to go back to processes, intensity transformations, and histogram transformations. I'm going to do a live view. And what you can do is increase the midtones a little bit. That's going to brighten the background, but it's also going to brighten these little areas. So when you do decrease your darks, those areas still show up. Otherwise, if you just decrease the background, these these little areas go away. This tidal trail kind of disappears. Kind of. It does disappear along with this over here. It's just too much data loss, I think. I like to increase, so that's why I increased the midtones a bit. And you can do it a little more. Maybe that's a little too harsh. Right there, yeah, I think that looks okay. Gonna go ahead and apply that. So if you Control Z, you can see the difference that makes. And still, don't worry about this awful noise. That'll be discarded, hopefully, when we do our convolution, when we blur our image. So I'm gonna work on the galaxy color now, because our RGB stack is all about color. So when we overlay our luminance layer, if we did that right now, the colors would be pretty muted. I like to saturate my colors before I combine a luminance layer, specifically because the luminance layer kind of mutes the RGB, the saturation, and it just in the layering process. So kind of overdoing the saturation will compensate for color loss in the end when you do combine your luminance layer. Okay, let's go. Curve transformation does have the saturation tool. So I'm going to be using the curve transformation tool. Make sure our mask is proper. Show mask. We want to invert it because we do not want to be saturating the background. You only want to be working on the galaxy, this light area. Show mask. Okay, let's try that one more time. All right, and do a live view. So I'm just going to automatically bring the saturation up a little bit, and that looks good. I actually get some saturation in the stars, which is nice too. I'm just gonna go upward. That's a little too much, but I do think maybe increase the red tones a bit. You can do color correction as well here. This is where you want to get your color correct. You don't have to worry about the details. Just kind of imagine how you want these dust lanes to look. What color you want these dust lanes to look. What color you want this outer tidal tail to look. I know there's like uh, a blue cluster of stars over here that I barely picked up. I definitely want to show that. So that's too purple. I like the natural look. I'm gonna go there. Maybe bring up the blues a tad. Bring down the blues. Okay, so yeah, bringing down these darks here kind of gets rid of this the blue hues here in the center, which I think make it look kind of pretty cool, natural looking. And I'm going to increase the saturation a bit more, I think. And bring up the green hues a tad. Maybe the red hues some more, just to get rid of that pale green look. Make it more yellow. All right, I'm liking that, so I'm going to go ahead and apply it. So now we can go ahead and remove the mask once you're satisfied with your color corrections. Remove the mask, and now we're going to blur this image. And what we're supposed to be doing is getting rid of all the noise. So let's do a live view. Oh, I'm sorry. So we're going to go to process, convolution, and we're going to go ahead and do a live view here. And what you can see, the standard deviation slider really blurs your image. You don't want to do it too much. You do have to. You can see that these stars do get wider as you blur it. So you might have some bright halos if you blur too much. So you got to keep that in mind. You just kind of want the noise to go away. This is ugly, but that's easy to clone stamp out in Photoshop. So I like it right there. I'm gonna go ahead and apply that. So I do think the background is a little red, but that's okay. We can adjust that in our final image. So now that's blurred. Now what we're gonna do is layer over our luminance layer, and that is the detailed layer. I have already processed my luminance layer, and you should have your luminance layer processed already prior to layering it over. So the luminance stack is a completely separate um, process on its own. You have the RGB stack you want to process, and then you want to process your luminance stack. And here you can see very pixely because I only had a 1.2 megapixel camera. Great sensitive camera, but hard to get the detail in there. So that's my processed image, and what we're going to do is just kind of pop it right over top there. But we have to do that in a process called LRGB combination. Go ahead and process. We're going to reset this Uncheck your RGB because that's not necessary. We're just going to be working with our luminance layer. M51 luminance JPEG registered. And now here you can do chrominance noise reduction just in case. You can increase the saturation of pad, which I always do. I lower the darkness a little, or the brightness a little bit, and go ahead and do a new instance. And so here, over here is our final image. I'm not super happy with the color. We can try and increase the saturation a bit more. Control Z. Bring the lightness down a bit. That looks a little better, I guess you could say. It's a little blue. You can go to channel weights, bring down the blues a little bit. Go back, adjust these sliders a tad, and you can adjust these blues and oh, that's green. You can adjust these blues, and if you don't like the color of your final stack, you don't have to go through all these channel weights. Just go through histogram transformation or curves, and lower your blues or your greens or whatever channel kind of shows itself more than the others. Here is green. Maybe back off the blues a little bit. And this is redundant. I don't. Okay, that looks okay. Background's still a little red to me. I would fix that, but I'm not working on color correction right now. I just wanted to show you guys easy LRGB combination, specifically RGB combination, and the convolution process, which will reduce your noise, and then the layering of the luminance layer, which will give you your detail. So yeah, again, as always, if you have any questions, you can please comment or feel free to send me a message. I'd love to help. Thanks again for tuning in, and I should have another video up shortly. Thank you.